Hello, loves. Zelda here. I am here to give you a week ahead tarot reading. Today is Sunday, June 12th, and so this will be for the week ahead. You will pick a pile based on the following three skulls that I'm going to show you, and then you'll skip. Either you'll watch pile 1 because that's the one you chose, or you'll skip ahead to pile 2 or 3 to get a personalized reading. I love these pick a pile readings because it really relies on your own trust in your sense of intuition, your own self-awareness of which one is calling to you, and then it allows you to do a little bit of self-divination so that you can pick the message that is most supportive for you. As always, with my readings, please take what resonates and leave the rest. Of course, I encourage you to not only take just positive messages if there's something that feels like it actually is supportive and challenging, but if something just doesn't land, that is something that your sacred power of discernment will let you know. And so these messages are only for you if you consent and are open to receiving them. So before we jump into the three skulls, the three different decks that we're going to be using are the Universal Dragon Oracle deck, the Points of View Oracle deck, and the Oak, Ash, and Thorn. The Oak, Ash, and Thorn tarot deck. So it will be 2 oracles and a tarot deck for a 3-card reading. So I'm going to show you the 3 options, and then you'll go to the time-stamped spot for the skull that calls to you most. So this is pile number 1. Pile number 1's name is Aniza. She is a clear quartz carved by Leandro de Souza, a Brazilian master carver. Loves star anise as offerings. So if Aniza is calling to you, your pile is pile number 1. Pile number 2 is Humbert. Humbert is a Himalayan quartz carved by Indian master carver Subhash Meena. Humbert is a bear spirit. So if Humbert is calling, your pile is pile number 2. Pile number 3 is going to be another carved by master carver Leandro de Souza. This is Haroun. Haroun is clear Brazilian quartz, loves to work with creativity. So if Haroun calls to you, your pile is pile number 3. I look forward to seeing which one you choose. Feel free to leave a comment and let me know which one resonates. I'm going to jump into pile number 1, so feel free to skip ahead if that's not you. Okay, pile number 1, you picked Aniza. I'm going to flip over all 3 cards. I will show them to you. So you picked Aniza. We'll see if there's any messages that want to come through from her. Of course, she is the one who guided the choice of the cards, as well as you feeling connected to her. So for this one, pile number 1, your tarot card is the Knight of Swords. Your Points of View Oracle is the Creator. And your Universal Dragon card is Structure. One of the things that I'm really called to firstly in this reading with all 3 of these cards together is what a similar color palette there is to all 3 of them. This one has these yellow butterflies that really stand out. This one has the gray and the yellowish dragon in there. And this one has this yellowish webbing or net that seems to be coming out of the mind. So The Knight of Swords is all of the knights are medicine of movement. The Knight of Swords, if we think of the court cards as being double elementals, which that's how I read them, the Knight of Swords is air for the knight with air for the swords. And so it is an airy card. It is fast moving, fast paced. This crow is flying with these butterflies, and are blindfolded, the crow, or it looks kind of like they're blindfolded. They have their eyes covered, and they're holding this sword, and they're really like, it feels like the words that I'm hearing is full speed ahead. Having said that, I am called that this doesn't feel like in this reading, like it is a thoughtful, like planned out type of thing. However, when I see this structure, I really think of like some of these are load bearing pieces of the structure. They're weighty. And some of them seem kind of fragmented or less stable. And this being seems to be like figuring out which of them to clear away, which of them to keep, which ones are feeling valuable, and is kind of inspecting some of the integrity of the structure. With the creator, I feel this sense of like, this feels really like intuition. I feel these spiral. This reminds me of Aries, which is the beginner of the zodiac, ruled by Mars. It feels very almost like Pan type of experience, or otherworldly in that way. And then this net really feels like a channeling of divine inspiration, or of like the interconnectedness, that we are this kind of like blend between these two worlds. I also think of the spiral antlers or horns of kind of goats, or even mountain goats, and how they can kind of like lock antlers. With this color theme, a message that's really coming through is to look and see where the light is shining through in your life. Where are the areas where light is kind of shining through the cracks, where the light is guiding you towards where you want to go? With the swords, I really think of like career. Like, this feels like a card almost that you have planned through or made out many decisions to get to where you are. I think of butterflies migrating transgenerationally, so they will actually die before reaching their generation, and their offspring will reach their generation. And I think of many ways where over the course of our lifetimes, we are building up these skills necessary to make some career leaps or decisions, and that when it is time, you need to trust the structures that you have built to carry you, or build new ones, it seems like, maybe to be able to support yourself in big changes. And then this really feels like channeling energy to me. Like, it does look a little kind of sticky, or like honey like almost, but I really feel this sense of allowing yourself to kind of steep in the wisdom. Like, it looks like she's almost sitting in water to me, and like really steeping in the wisdom as it comes in and is channeled down from guides, from higher self, from whatever brings you inspiration and guidance in your life. Let's see what Aniza kind of has to add and pull through for here. Aniza is very insistent upon like the color of yellow in here feels like a nectar. Like when I said honey before, it almost feels like that divine, delightful sweetness of like the nectar of the gods almost. And that following your sweetness and the areas that feel delightful is a way that you can kind of sustain some of the intense changes. Like, I do get a sense of like transformation from this, and that there is an ask to be guided by the brightness, or by the interest, by the desire in your life, and also to trust like your gut almost. Like it feels like not just thinking or studying, but really like feeling into which ones feel like they're supporting you, really taking trial and error and exploring what feels best for you. I'm also hearing there is more than meets the eye. So maybe part of trusting your gut is also knowing that there is more than just is on the surface level of the decisions that you're making. And so it's important that you allow yourself to really feel into things as you are making potentially some fairly large leaps forward. I also feel a sense of not shying away from challenge or darkness. Like there's not a sense of like swerving out of the way that I get from this. Like feel this like headlong going into it, and that there's a lot of supports, like a lot of guides and supports around you supporting that speed which you're moving forward with. But this person is actually kind of steeping in that, and this one is like not leaning away from kind of the shadowy depths where maybe there are some creepy crawlies or some things like that. So while following the sweetness is really important, I also, it feels like Aniza loves star anise. I leave those for her as an offering. And there's some quality to anise that is this like bitter sweetness, and that there is not a shying away from the bitter or the challenge. Maybe this is a point of making a mistake and owning up to it, or accountability, or acknowledging some limitations, that's not necessarily a negative thing, and that the focus on the sweetness is not to avoid what isn't sweet, but is to shift and allow your attention to take the full, extensive, comprehensive quality of that in. Okay. I think that is your reading, pile one. Thank you so much. I hope that you have a beautiful week, and feel free to let me know if that resonated. If you'd like more reading or healing, I am having a full moon event tomorrow, and you can find info for that in the description. Thank you so much, pile number one. If you are still here, that means you are pile number two, or you are a rebel and you're just watching the whole thing. And if so, I commend you. I do always recommend watching the one that calls to you first, just so that you can like let those messages settle in and trust yourself a little bit. Always good to test your intuition. So if you're here, pile number two, you chose Humbert. So let's flip over your cards. Ooh, okay. So your tarot card is the World. The Universal Dragon is Rest. And the Points of View Oracle card is Flat on Your Back. Whew. So the World card is a completion of cycles. There are in the Major Arcana, which is kind of like these lines of cards, that is a huge kind of epic journey that the Fool, if we read it in this way, the kind of like protagonist of the Major Arcana, the Fool kind of embodies and moves through this journey, and the World is the final card in that journey of the Major Arcana. So it really speaks to the completion, like the full completion of these cycles, coming full circle. I also feel this sense with the World of oftentimes it's like someone looking at something from the outside. So it's like a part where you get to consolidate lessons and reflect back on things and really self-witness in a lot of ways, the immense amount of growth. And there is also this like closure that comes with the World of this like coming to a close. For the other cards, especially in the context of this rest and flat on your back, I'm getting the sense that maybe this was kind of an exhausting cycle that you've moved through, that there is this process of like huge growth or huge transformation where you've done a lot of shedding and it's been exhausting, and you're actually being asked to kind of lie down for a little bit. Flat on your back feels like getting laid out and getting like maybe you're having some health symptoms coming up. Maybe you're feeling a sense of just like fatigue and aimlessness. Honestly, I pulled this deck and this cards and I was like, yeah, I resonate with that. The cycle is coming full close. So if that is how you're feeling, there is no harm in that. Rest is a very good use of your time. I also see a lot of the imagery of these circles in this card, and it just feels like these pearls are forming in this restful space. Like they look like pearls to me, and these fish are kind of around, mulling about, that things are going to go on as you rest. This card is still alive with movement and life, but the being there is really letting themselves rest, resonate, and marinate, right, and settle into the fullness of being able to take in those lessons. um, Rest is productive. I also see this being lying down here as being a more restful state of being able to receive, being in a state of wanting to even ask for help or allow others to take care of you, or if you're in a position or a privileged position to do that, even paying people to support your process and hold space for you can be a really beautiful thing. This is like calling in processors or ordering dinner out so you don't have to do something like that. Like, I think of what are the things when you're kind of laid out, like getting in the bathtub, taking a nap, taking care of yourself, where you're honoring the fact, like, I'm exhausted. And we don't always have a really good understanding of when that's going to resolve. And we can't really put a time limit on it if we're really going to take good care of ourselves. So that is a very clear message that I'm getting here. Let's check in with Humbert and see what his additions are. So from Humbert, I really feel so. Humbert is a bear spirit and is a kind of like shows up as all different ages of this bear being. And I love that because in the world card, I really see this like younger and older, and he very much encompasses like the different parts of his life and this like spirit bear energy. I feel this kind of like wrap of these big, like a bear hug, around me. And this sense of being held is really strong. And I feel that in the rest, right? This sense of allowing yourself to be held, to be nurtured. I also think with bears about the usefulness of hibernation, about having a time designated for curling up and letting your system really take inventory and rest through perhaps a very difficult time. If this is a time where you're feeling like you need to hibernate through it, I know it's not necessarily in the northern hemisphere like a timely time of year to feel like you're hibernating, but maybe this is a time of year where you get super hot, where you get super blown out. Maybe you're in an industry where this is actually a really hard time for you. And if that is the case, let yourself go down. The question that I'm holding is, what happens if you need to rest, but you cannot rest? Like you still have things to do. And I'm actually getting with this, the like flat on your back, this is perhaps a more urgent form of needing to rest. Yeah. So I heard like if you don't take the time, then you will get to a point where you have to. Right? This is during the world, we have this opportunity to really utilize it in a good way. Sometimes we can take time to take care of ourselves and the rest can feel nourishing, or we can do what so many people do and we can push ourselves and wait until we like get physically sick. And then we get totally laid out and we have to take care of ourselves and it's not as fun. So I get this sense of like, even if you are not feeling the need to fully rest, like, or you're feeling like, but it's too busy, I can't do that. That is already your mind kind of playing a trick with you. It's already, you're in this cycle of re-upping your stress in your system and not giving yourself the space and the time to actually take a step back. And I get the sense that that is actually part of this lesson, is that you might get laid out from that. So obviously take it or leave it if it doesn't feel meant for you. If you're like, no, I'm full of energy, I'm not feeling like the resolve of a cycle, then maybe this isn't your message, and that's totally fine. But if it is resonating, I really encourage you to take that, and take good care of yourself and allow yourself to be cared for, and hibernate when it's time to arise. I just remember like the bears coming out of their caves to like eat some osha or something. Having like herbal supports or nature oriented things that really, I just felt my nose stuff up like really randomly. So I don't know if you have like a stuffy nose or something, but I even think of like other supports could be things that clear out the mucosal membrane. So herbal supports like that, if that's feeling like it resonates with you, things that stimulate that, like ginger or wasabi or things like that, that feel like they clear the sinuses, or things that support that in like building that membrane, as well. Okay. I think that is your message. Thank you so much, pile number 2. If you would like some more reading or information, I am having a full moon event tomorrow on Monday. And you can sign up with that with the link in the info area. But thank you so much. I hope you have a really lovely week, and maybe I'll see you next week. Okay. If you are here, then I am guessing you are pile number 3, our final pile, and you chose Haroun. Fun fact about Haroun, besides loving to work with creativity, he's also one of the first like fancy master carved skulls that I ever purchased. And the person on the live actually said, I think this is meant for this person, no pressure. And I like was feeling so connected. So I love Haroun. Haroun has such a special place in my heart. Okay, so Haroun, the cards, the tarot card is the King of Wands. The King of Wands. The universal dragon is knowledge. And 4 a.m. Okay, so the initial message that I'm getting from this is like maybe that there is a little bit of like burning the midnight oil, so to speak, happening with your creative process right now. Like I get the sense with 4 a.m. coming up, it reminds me of when I used to like, I was very dorky as a child. I read a lot, and I was definitely one of those people where like I would have the lights off because I was likely supposed to be sleeping, and would be like up reading all night, that kind of thing. Um, and so I get that sense with this being of like, and this like little light turned on of there being some sort of like maybe creative process for you, whether it is reading or whether it's like doing your art or getting ideas happening later and later at night, or even in the super early morning, like 4 a.m. But that this feels like, especially with seeing this, I'm getting this sense of like trusting your cycles. The King of Wands is very, feels exalted in some way. It is fire for the king and fire for the wand, so super fiery, burning, sustainable creative flame, this kind of creative embodied leadership, so to speak. All of the kings feel like an embodied leadership, in their own way, when they're balanced. And so I really feel this sense of like unless it's something that's causing a lot of problems or challenges for you, trust your creative process. If you, maybe other people don't get inspired and want to write all night, but maybe you do, or maybe you are really excited about the new series that you're reading and it feels really invigorating and you want to read until 4 a.m. I really get that sense of like trusting and enabling yourself to trust your processes of learning and engaging with creativity. um, Haroun is Haroun picked his name because he loves the book Haroun and the Sea of Stories. So, because this knowledge card came up, it's not surprising to me that something reading related came up. Haroun and the Sea of Stories is written by Salman Rushdie and has some of the, I believe it's Arabian Nights story, like woven in, and talks about jinns and genies. And there's this big, like, unraveling quality to the magical otherworldliness. And it just feels like all of these books are like portals to other worlds and creative process, whether or not you are a professional creative or feel creative in any way. Your creative passionate projects are part of the way that you form portals to other planes of reality. I think that sentence made sense. I was really following that, really came right down through. So I'm not sure exactly if that order made sense. So I hope that it landed for you. But this quality of like, I even see this door as this kind of like light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, and how following that guidance and allowing yourself to be moved towards it is also this quality of like trusting your passion, trusting your creativity, trusting your intuition, and trusting that sometimes we go off on these tangents in creative process and we feel guided or feel inspired to do that, right? Inspiration is in spirit, right? It comes into us and it enlivens us. And so it is deeply connected to our relationship with spirit and the divine. And I really feel that quality of like trusting that and following that and knowing that your process is so valuable. The product, so much less so. I know that we live in a world that says produce, 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 but the process of your creativity is magical. So I also feel this quality with this of like, maybe this is a creative process that isn't just about like making art. I'm referencing writing a lot because Haroun really tends to call towards writers. I'm a writer and a poet and love doing channeled writing, but obviously I do other forms. I'm a lot more called to do things like videos these days to connect with people who maybe don't want to read writing in the same type of way. And maybe you're feeling, and I'm just seeing the book, like that's part of why I think it like lodged, but I also want to like open up in the way that our creative process can be spending time in nature. It can be sexual healing energy, getting creative in sensuality and how we play with our systems. It could be going to a like painting and wine class, it could be that aspect, right, of engaging your creativity in a playful way. It could be playing a sport almost, or getting back into something, picking up an instrument that you feel very called to. That's interesting, like especially with like how this is holding, like that feels instrumental in some ways. There's a lot of birds, um learning how to sing, using your voice in some kind of way. I also see in this card, which I didn't, but the colors kind of alerted me, is this like golden apple in the background that feels a little bit semi-biblical in a way, of like the apple or the golden apple. And I get this sense of like knowledge is power, but cognitive knowledge is only one tiny part. Um, Knowledge is power, but knowledge is not only knowing with the mind, is another way to say that. Let's check in with Haroun and see if there are. With the King of Wands, it's feeling very connected. Haroun seems to have this desire to re-emphasize, to trust yourself over systems, over larger systems. So the 4 a.m. is like, this is a quiet time where like you are in your private space. Maybe this is a part of your nightly or daily practice. Leaning away from some of the systems that say how things should be and leaning into how you feel, allowing yourself to be a study, allowing your life to be a study and a process of evolution. I also see this like rising up of these spiral horns, which really feels like a Kundalini rising experience. It looks a little bit like this crown on the fox. And I get this sense of like that channel, that like divine channel of creativity, and how that sometimes is like, ooh, bibliomancy. Okay, that kind of got sidetracked, but letting what you notice be like that divine inspiration. Bibliomancy is like opening a book and flipping through it and seeing what catches your eye, or like going and to the library. I know a lot of people don't go to libraries anymore, but I encourage it if you want to go and stroll through the bookshelves, and definitely get a library card if you don't have one, even if you're not going to use it. It helps with funding. But the like going and scrolling through the bookshelves and allowing something to call to you, and almost like it is a tarot reading or pulling a card for you, allow the book to kind of open and allow yourself to take in the information on that page. Yeah. And allow that to be part of your evolutionary process. Your creative juices may be flowing at weird times of day. Trust it, follow it, let it flow. I feel invigorated after your reading pile 3. The other ones too, but I feel excited. It feels like a fiery, delicious reading for you. So if you are still here and you chose to watch all of them, or if you are in pile number 3, thank you so, so much. If you would like to have more time reading, I have an event tomorrow called Cosmic Curiosity. It is for the full moon in Sagittarius. You can find the link in the information, the description box to my website, where you can get a spot to that. All of my full and new moon events are Reiki healing, a crystalline DNA activation, and then a collective card reading. Also, the next upcoming Dragon Portal is on the 1st of July. Again, this is Zelda. Thank you so much for being here for the Week Ahead Tarot reading. I hope to see you next week. Bye-bye.